Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the Entremusician, and so are you. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Entremusician. As you know, this is the space where we concentrate on the mindset, the discipline, and the focus of the Entremusician. But there's something incredible about this episode, which is going to set it apart from all of our other incredible episodes. And today what we're going to do is we're going to roll back the curtain on a project that has been brewing now for the last 8 or 9 months consistently, and that is the Entremusician Mastermind Collaborative. Now, why such a big word for a mastermind group? But it is truly a collaborative. And about 14 or 15 of us have been getting together, and we have met every week online across the world to challenge each other, to encourage each other, to share resources, to collaborate, as it were, on certain projects, and absolutely discuss topics that are relevant to us as Entremusicians. If there's a problem, we try to present a solution. We give each other homework assignments and hold each other's feet to the fire, making us all accountable to move the needle forward in our individual careers and as a collaborative. I'm grateful to be a part of this, even though I might have been the ignition. There's definitely more than my personality at work here, as you will find out, because today you get to share in a conversation of what we talked about, what we experienced the last several weeks. I think this was recorded maybe 3 weeks ago, and not everyone was able to join in, but we record all of our sessions, and we agreed that this was the one we wanted to roll out to you, specifically because as a subscriber to the Entremusician, if you've done this, if you've gone to the Backstage Pass, you know, depending on your level of subscribership, that you have access to this mastermind group, to us collectively and individually. However, if you've been sitting on the fence for a couple of months and saying, well, I don't know, I'm hoping that after hearing this conversation and the wisdom and the pearls and the diamonds really that are shared with respect to each Entremusician's personal experience and their personal story and the things that they have embarked upon and accomplished, it would be the perfect inspiration for you. Now, as I said before, not all 14 could jump on at this particular time, but we did have Gil Polk, who's an actor and Entremusician writing for film and TV from upstate New York. We have Jeanne Ricks, who's an incredible guitarist in the smooth jazz genre. She has written songs for Colionne, for George Benson, and for Chaka. You might want to check out the interview that we did with her several months back and just listen to her story. We have Balliro, who's the Associate Professor of Voice at Berklee School of Music. Berklee College of Music, some say, but Berklee School of Music in Boston. And she is just incredible. She is one of the transmissions of the Entremusician Mastermind Collaborative and just doing great work in her field. We have Vance Anderson. Vance Anderson was the road manager for the iconic Tony Bennett for 20 years plus of Tony Bennett's career. And he knows everything that there is to know about touring and being a road manager and just even doing sound front of house and monitor mixing. And he's a drummer in his own right and has done front of house for like Stevie Wonder, and just an incredible story he has working with John McLaughlin, let me say that correctly, and Paco de Lucia and Al Di Meola. I mean, he was the road manager when they were touring together. So he brings a wealth of knowledge to the table Robert Boots Pickard, who's a fellow Youngstown-onian from Youngstown, Ohio, like myself. And he has done incredible things working with Pieces of a Dream and Zap, and also writing for Nick Colionne. I mean, he is doing amazing things. And so we were able to get together and just have this powerful conversation. And we wanted you to share into it because there's much you can learn about these individual experiences. And the interesting thing is, as we were considering, recording this, we just pretty much put on the recorder and let it go. And as I was considering, hey, maybe I should edit this down a little bit because it's about 90 minutes long, I believe with all my heart, I don't just think, I believe it. It's going to be worth your while. It's going to be worth your while because you are going to see yourself in many of their stories, and you're going to see the obstacles that they've had to overcome and how they can apply to you and your career. And I'm grateful to just be able to present this to you because it's not just Jerry talking at you. I mean, you're hearing from some seasoned individuals who are doing it every day and killing it as EntreMusicians. So it's my pleasure to present this to you. I'll have all of their information in the show notes, in the description box below, so that you can reach out to them directly. And again, if you have not yet decided to become a subscriber to the EntreMusician, I hope this will help push the button of the push your button, I should say, of the incredible wealth of resources that we like to share around here at the EntreMusician. So let me just stop talking and push play and enjoy. If you're traveling, this will be great on your commute. If you're just sitting down having a cup of coffee, grab some notes and take some notes because you're really going to benefit from this conversation. Peace and blessings to you. And here we go.
You're back.
I'm back. I was away, but I'm back. Okay, I'll start. Let's get this thing going. Okay,
here we go.
Vance Anderson.
Nope, not yet.
Played drums for 10 years. I'm going, baby. I'm going. Played drums from 1967 to 1977. In 1977 until 2011, tour managing audio engineer with some of the greatest musicians on the planet. Got sick in 2011, had a stem cell transplant, tried to reinvent. 2013, started to manage the Pennies, a pop folk band who are phenomenal. They built a studio in Des Moines, Iowa. The studio has become the place to go for all these Midwest musicians, and life is really good. Finished writing a screenplay, trying to pitch it to all those people who make decisions, and that's basically it. Over to you, Linda.
Hello, I'm Linda Balliro. I'm Associate Professor of Voice at Berklee College of Music in Boston. And I'm also a private vocal instructor, coach, consultant. And I've trained Mike Gordon since 2012. And a few other notables and many up and coming and emerging young artists. I'm also an author, and I'm an author of the book, Being a Singer, The Art, Craft, and Science, if you can see it.
And how do people get in touch with you, Linda?
Oh, yeah, that would be helpful. Reach out to me anytime on my website, lindaballiro.com, or check out my Instagram. I do a lot of teaching and educational material there and a lot of resources that you can pick up for free. It's Balliro Voice, Balliro Voice.
And the gentleman who preceded Linda, I was laughing over his introduction. That is the effervescent Vance Anderson. Now, Vance, is there a way that people can get in touch with you if they want to?
Oh, absolutely. They can email me at vance@goldenbearrecords.com.
Excellent. Now, Jeanne Ricks is also a part of our EntreMusician Mastermind Collaborative. Jeanne, what's up, dear?
Hey, I am a singer, songwriter. I love writing. I love hearing music, and I've been blessed to be able to write for people like George Benson recorded my song Love Remembers for the CD Love Remembers. Chaka Khan did one of my songs called Don't Ask. Just recently, Nick Colionne recorded my song Only to See You Smile, and that's out now. And I have a song coming, I've got 2 CDs of my own, but I have a song coming out on Sonic Portrait Jazz. It's an album of collaborative album called The Art of Protest. And my song is War and Insufficient Peace. Not War and Peace, but War and Insufficient Peace. And I'm still, my main thrust is doing film music, and I haven't gotten to do as much of it as I would like to, but that's still what I'm moving towards, doing more music for film.
And how do people get in touch with you?
Either through Jeanne Ricks Music on Instagram, or my website, jeannericks.com, or rixofactomusic.com.
That's excellent. And then there is Mr. Gil Polk, who is the newest member of our collaborative, but he brings a lot of value to the table. So Gil, what's up, man?
Hi, how are you guys? I'm nervous. Usually meet with you guys, just have fun. I'm Gil Polk. I guess what am I known for? If you knew me a few years ago, I was an actor in New York City. And the last things I did there with Classical Theater of Harlem was on Sinner. And that was a joy because I got to do a scene with Bill Pullman. So that was a really cool thing. Right now, I live upstate, and I am working on music full-time. I'm focusing on licensing, focusing on pitching to artists again, which surprised me because I thought I was leaving that behind, but my publisher has some pretty nice ends, so we're working on something. And a song of mine I wrote for a friend who passed away, I just happened to submit to her while she had a funeral, believe it or not, and to someone close to her, and she has fallen in love with the song and is kind of running with it like unlike any song I've ever had. So I'm super excited about that. If anybody wants to contact me for anything, you can email me. Gil. I try to keep my moniker at Gil Polk Music pretty much everywhere. GILPOLK MUISC. And my email is gilpolkmusic@gmail.com, or YouTube on Gil Polk Music, Twitter Gil Polk Music, Facebook Gil Polk Music. So pretty much if you just search for that. Challenges. You mentioned, let's see.
We're going to introduce Boots first, and then we're going to open.
Oh, later. Cool. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I know you have a lot. Jeanne and I earlier were talking about success is synonymous with mistakes. So we're going to be talking about that.
That's an understatement.
Absolutely. But another great member who is also a newer member of our collaborative is probably most close to me geographically as well as musically. I've known him a long time, and I'm grateful that he has joined our collaborative, and that's Robert's Boots Pickard. Brother Boots.
Say what I'm probably most known for. I'm probably most known for my music production. I've worked with bands like Pieces of a Dream. I've worked with Zap. I've worked with Nick Colionne, and a few others. And what I'm into now is I'm doing a lot of music production. I've recently produced stuff for the runner-up for American Idol, Willie Spence, and I have 2 projects out now. And so I would say to get in contact with me, you can use at Boots Neo Keys, that's on Twitter, at Boots the Engineer, that is my Instagram. And then I have Robert Boots Pickard on Facebook. And I have a website, but I cannot think of it right now. So, but that is it. That's skinny.
That's excellent. So Vance, Linda, Gil, Jeanne and Boots tonight. We may have a couple other members of our collaborative popping on. Schedule was an issue for them. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about tonight specifically was using what's in your hand. We want to try as Entremusicians to eliminate any and every excuse you may have for getting started or taking the next step. Sometimes we let worry, doubt, fear, we let lack of, whatever that is, fill in the blank, to stop us from really moving into our purpose and really jumpstarting our career. So, I'm grateful to be surrounded by some excellent people who have had to overcome some serious boundaries to get where they are. I mean, you don't just have Chaka Khan record your tune or George Benson record your tune or Nick Colionne. It just doesn't happen. There's some things that you have to get out of the way and turn obstacles into opportunity. So basically, you guys hear from me enough. I wanted you to hear some other stories, testimonials, and things that these fine men and women had to go through and overcome in order to achieve some of the things they had. So I don't want everybody to raise their hand at once. So if you would permit me, I would love for Jeanne to just kind of pick up where she left off in her introduction and let us know what were some of the things that were challenges for you right at the beginning of your career. When you look back in the rearview mirror, what were some of the challenges that you had to rise above in order to accomplish all that you had?
Yeah, well, it's the same identical things that I have to overcome now. At that time, it was lack of resources, lack of connections. I'm just from Chicago. I'm just a little Black girl that came from Chicago. I didn't have all the connections that I needed all over the industry. Same problem I have now. Self-confidence. I'm woefully lacking in confidence. I'm that person that just wants to sit in the lab and do my thing. I hear music in my head when I wake up in the mornings. I'm hearing new stuff. Now, I know it's just my subconscious mind putting stuff together, but regardless, I hear stuff. I'm inspired. I'm there. I just want to sit in the lab and do my thing. But I have to, because of the industry that we're in and the way that it's been formulated, you have to push yourself to get your face out there. You have to push yourself to make connections. Getting the song on Nick Colionne took me going to Berk's Jazz Fest out here in Pennsylvania. I had to drive my little, but now I hate long distance driving, but I did it. I drove, and my father would tell you I'm a little heavy footed. So I got there in record time, but I went backstage and I just hung out. There he is. There's Nick Colionne. There's, I can't remember this violinist, but there were all the folks, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm sitting back there. I brought my guitar. Why not? I'm a guitarist. I just happened to have my guitar. And so I just happened to have been asked to come on stage. Why not? They didn't have many female musicians back there. So, and then Nick comes up to me and he's like, yeah, you sounded pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I've got some songs for you. I've written for George Benson. So you need to hear my songs. And I'm like that. I mean, in person, I have no problem being with people. It's just that it's hard to get me out of the doggone house. And unfortunately, the industry does not come to my door. Don't know. But so, yeah, it's all about making your own connections and making your own way, finding that little, because going through proper channels never worked for me. When I got the song on George Benson, yeah, I'd sent songs to his publisher, his producer, to his record label, to the studio where he was working. Everybody rejected my little stuff. Nobody gave me any props. Finally, I'm sitting at home back in Chicago and I get this phone call and it's Bob James. And I'm like, whoa, really? And he's working in A&R for whatever reason for WIA. And he said he'd been in his office for 2 weeks And he hadn't been able to get the custodian, his words, to take this box of his predecessor's stuff out of the office. And there was this big box with all this material and writer's stuff. And he said, I was just at random. I pulled something out just to see if there was anything, because we've been desperate to find a song for George. And I pulled it out and it was yours. And I'm just wondering if this song, Love Remembers, is still available. And I'm like, let me check. Hold on, Bob. Let me go check. And then he said, and we're doing the session in New York in 2 weeks. And it just so happenstance, that I had booked myself a ticket to New York. And I was going to be there that time. I said, listen, I can bring the materials to you. He wanted to use my sequencing and all that stuff. I'm like, I can bring this stuff. He said, well, if you're going to be here, by all means, be part of the sessions. This is how generous this man was. I got to sing background vocals. I got to work with George. I got to sit in the session with Omar Hakim. I mean, what? And again, that wasn't through proper channels. That was because my box, my little effort had gone in the trash. And this man picked something at random out of the trash.
Wow. Well, that's, I see the best of both worlds there, because you did say, well, lack of connections. You led by saying what you didn't have, but what you do have is enough guts to be impulsive about the moment and take the risk and take the opportunities when they come.
Loads of confidence.
That's absolutely right.
But I would say you do have to keep pressing. The Weather Channel is playing my music and has played it for like 12 years. Mm-hmm. How did I get that? I was changing clothes one day, watching the Weather Channel, and they were playing smooth jazz. And I was like, my music should be on there. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I hit the phones, I hit the internet, looking to find that individual that booked the music for them. And I finally did. And they were wonderful, receptive. So it's about perseverance too. So that would be my final perseverance.
That's excellent. Perseverance is what's up. So Gil, you are the newest. So I'm skipping. You see my screen from bottom to top right. Since you're the newest voice here in the collaborative, I'm sure you would agree a lot with what Jeanne had to add. But what about your own story of what you personally had to overcome in order for you to achieve your accomplishments?
Well, because I think it's so important, I'm going to just keep going with Jeanne's perseverance, because I'm thinking about things like I'm tracing back, and the things that I'm working on now materialized a year ago, 4 years ago, things like that. And it's case in point, one of the things I'm really excited about is working with a 3-term mayor in South Carolina who's now retired, and his new mission is to teach Reconstruction to young people. And he found my song called Common Ground, and he literally changed the title of his book to Sharing Common Ground to reflect our song. And now he's invited us in to be sort of this theme song behind the mission, and I'm reproducing the song for him and kind of a bluesy feel for him. That all happened because my co-writer went to school with him. I'm with my co-writer because 4 years ago, he won the contest for the new lyrics of the Virginia State song, because I guess they had some racial undertones that they didn't want in there anymore. And I just reached out to him on Facebook, not knowing him, saying, congratulations. And I said, maybe we should write sometime, thinking he was in South Carolina or Virginia. And he said, yeah, we should. He said, where do you live? And I said, New York. And he's like, New York? I'm in New York. This is when I lived in New York City. And he lived in Upper East Side. And we had a good laugh and we wrote together. And now we're doing a lot of cool stuff. And that was a long time ago, and it's still there. Production is probably my biggest challenge right now, because I'm learning production at this ripe old age. And again, to persevere, I've produced in the past. I never liked how my stuff sounded because it never came out. So I always just hired producers. I gave up on it because I was like, nope, it always sounds cheesy. I don't want to do it. But there's something making me just keep going. This is years now. And now I found new producers like Chris Bradley from producelikeaboss.com, who I love because she's so non-techy, and she works on Logic like I do. And she did a class, and I watched that a couple months ago, and I'm letting things sink in, but things are much better, but they're not like that. And just yesterday, I rewatched a video and I was like, oh my God, she wasn't trying to, mimic the sounds from this reference track we're looking at. She's just taking notes of what elements are coming in, and then go listen to the sounds you want to pick. And I can't wait to play with this when I'm done with talking with you guys, because I was like, oh, whoa, that's going to like boom. And I have a feeling my work's about to jump, and I'm just not giving up on it. You know what I mean? So it's just don't give up. Just keep going and follow your heart. And last, if I can say quick, self-confidence, like Jeanne was talking about. I've picked up the phone relatively few times in my life, and I've always got, and this isn't to brag, good things have come from that one call or two calls, and then I'll stop. I might call 3 reps. This happened. I called 3 licensing reps. 2 of them signed me. So I never called anybody for years because they were repping me, But that's not what you want to do. You want to keep building the network, because that wasn't laziness, and it wasn't all, I think I have enough. It's that there's that fear, and it's like, oh, maybe I don't have to call anymore. I've got reps, and you know what I mean? And then, so now that I'm doing a lot of different stuff and trying to grow, I just had this thing yesterday. With the director I acted with in New York City, and he had 2 major things happen, and I was like, call Ty and tell him congratulations, And I was like, he's too busy. I can't reach out to him. He doesn't have time for a call from me and stuff like that. Twice I did that. And then yesterday, the 3rd time I did it to myself. And on Facebook, a post came up because I was just checking through some things. And his response to a post was there. And I was like, oh, there's time. I should call him. No, he's too busy. He doesn't want to hear from you. So I gave the thing a like and then moved on. The next post that came up was a post of the play I did with him 5 years ago, that some girl in Argentina responded to the girl who posted it. And I'm looking at the background going, wait a minute, that's the set, Macbeth we were in. Ty directed that. And if that wasn't a slap in the head to call Ty. So I called Ty, and he was at a graduation, and he said, I picked up because I saw your name. That already hit me in the heart. Mm-hmm. And we talked for a few minutes, and at the end, I congratulated him, and I said, he told me he's writing a new play. And he said, I said, okay. I said, well, if you ever need a theme song, just let me know. And he said, it's funny you ask. I'm looking for composers right now. And we're actually going to talk about me possibly being in the running for being a composer for his new play. And that's not why I called. I called to say, congratulations. So you just never know. And who knows where that'll go. But I would love to work on his play. And yeah.
Well, that's excellent. It seems like perseverance is the theme of the day. I would jump over to Vance, who, I'm sure can add a lot of weight to the word perseverance, because you don't just be the road manager for the icon Tony Bennett for 20 plus years without having some. So Vance, would you like to jump in? The question is, though, and I know that you and I have talked, so please tell us, because you have had several obstacles which you've had to overcome, and you've turned them all into opportunity. Was it just perseverance, or what did you employ?
Well, the first and biggest obstacle I have to overcome is me, because I always get in the way of everything. But I'm going to echo what Jeanne and Gil said, because in my life, I was born with massive testosterone. I was born with a passion for theater. I was useless at school. I couldn't concentrate on anything at school, but theater was my thing. And I joined a children's theater when I was 12. And I walked into this old hemp house, this little old theater in this little village that I lived in, and blew my mind, like walking into a pirate ship with the ropes and the wood. And that was me. I've been bitten by that. And my passion was to be an actor. Until I was 17, my girlfriend got pregnant. I got my girlfriend pregnant. And there was no money in repertory theater in England. And I had already played bongos and things when I was a kid. And so really, I started playing drums. I just picked up drums and started playing. And, long story. But the thing about this is adaptability is a very important key in the music industry. And my experience has been mostly live. I've toured the world, as I said, with all kinds of incredible characters. And I mix sound. Sound mixing for me is everything. You know, I learned with John McLaughlin. He taught me how to anticipate the improvising musician. You know, when I travel on the road with that trio, I woke them up in the morning. I drove them all day long. I, you know, put them in a sound check, took them for dinner. We did the show, and I put them to bed. I knew everything they thought. I knew every way they were, and they were mischievous, and they were always, you know, challenging each other, and it was amazing. And then after spending a day with
the trio, people don't know the trio, Vance. That's a remarkable trio.
John McLaughlin,
that trio? Say it.
John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, and Paco de Lucia. Paco de Lucia is my heart. Anyway, so, and I had the greatest time with them because we were at the height when I was with them. It was the three of them and me in a car. And we went all over the world, and we toured Europe for 3 months, and then we came to America, my first time in America. My first gig was Carnegie Hall, and my second gig was the Hollywood Bowl. And it was mind-boggling, but boy, we had fun. We had fun. 1980, we had fun. But anyway, I digress. The thing about life is adaptability. You know, when an opportunity comes along, no matter what it is, go for it. Do you know how to do it? No, not necessarily, but I'm going to learn whilst I'm doing. And that's how I grew up, and that's how I live. And so I'm not a creative artist like you guys. I don't write songs. I write some poetry, but I don't write songs. But my whole thing is about supporting the artist. My whole life has been about creating platforms for artists to fly. As a production manager, you know, when Tony Bennett hits the stage, when he walks on that stage, it's got to be exactly the same as every single night. And every single night to him was Carnegie Hall. So you had to make everything just the way. And so that's our job, is to create the platform for the artist to fly. And I do that now with the Pennies. You know, they are incredibly creative and so brilliant at what they do. And my thing is to steer them around the pitfalls and all the rest of it. Be adaptive. I got sick in 2011 and had to have a stem cell transplant and come off the road. And I've been on the road, you know, from 77 to 2011 nonstop. And how do you reinvent when you don't die from a deadly disease and you manage to learn to walk again after 2 years of rehabilitation because you'd lost all your muscle and everything? How do you reinvent? You've got to be adaptable, baby. You've really got to be adaptable. And you've got to persevere, like Gil said, and like Jeanne said, and you've got to never give up. That's the secret. Sometimes you want to give up. Sometimes you just want to shoot yourself. Excuse me. But, you know, sometimes you get so desperate and so crazy. But, you know, just keep on going because something amazing will happen. The telephone call that Gil just got and everything changed, all his worry and his fear. I got the job with Tony Bennett from a phone call. My mother-in-law, I'll tell you, my mother-in-law told me 3 weeks before, hey, God told me that Tony Bennett is going to ask you to work for him. I'm like, yeah, right. My mother-in-law is a crazy pastor. And this went on. She called me every day from Brazil, asked me, so did you get the call yet? And I'm like, no, there is no call. There will be no call. Anyway, 3 weeks in, the telephone rings and this lady says, hi, this is Suzanne from Tony Bennett's office in New York, and we want you to come down immediately. And I did, and that was 20 years of working with him. So things happen. Be adaptable. When they tell you to get up and go, get up and go. You know, don't think about it. Just go for it. That's all I got to say right now.
Absolutely excellent. And just to piggyback on that, Vance,
I got story
before. No, that's beautiful. The thing about it is, you know, my wife and I, being people of faith too, I told my wife Vance's story, and now every day she says, "Did the check come yet?" She's asking, "Hey, did that check come yet? Did we get the call yet?" You know, because she's just speaking it into existence. If it worked for Vance Anderson,
it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you can beg something amazing to happen, and it just doesn't happen. And months go by and years go by, but don't believe it won't happen, because guess what? It will happen.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna skip over here to Boots, and Boots, what I want you to talk about specifically, because both Boots, Pickard, and I are from Youngstown, Ohio. Now, here's what I've been hearing all my life, okay? Because we're in small town USA. We're not in New York. We're not in Chicago. Heck, we're not even in Cleveland, right? So there seems to be that stigma about what you can and cannot achieve from a small town. So when you tell your story, Boots, can you throw that element in there as well, to that person who's listening, who's in their own little corner of the world and it's not a music mecca?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I say it was 2010, and so I was just getting ready to get out of Youngstown State University. I was in there for sound engineering. And, you know, I was doing production. I had been doing music production since I was probably 18. So, like, production is definitely one of my that and sound engineering is my strong suits. And so I found out that Zap was coming to town. And I knew one of the guys he was running sound for him. And he was like, hey, look, everybody talks about your ears. Why don't you come down and help me set up? You know, let's get everything, you know, done correctly, and, you know, and it's a nice little paycheck in. So I do, because it was at like a little small bar, you know, because, well, you know, it was Armando's. You know where it is, like a little soul food place. So I went in there, we set up. As I'm setting up, Lester Troutman, you know, Big Lester Troutman, he's in there and he's listening to me set up, and he comes and we just start talking. So I'm talking to Lester Troutman and his son, Little Lester, who is the sound guy for them. So as we're doing stuff, he was setting up certain things, and I was showing him some stuff because he's not formally classically trained. He's just, you know, a guy who learned on the road, which is nothing wrong with that. So, you know, so I was like, hey, let me show you this. I was showing him how to, you know, to hear things in the corners, you know, because it was a weird shaped building. Because, you know, in a square shaped building in corners, you know, the sound will boost in those squares. So you got to be able to hear, you know, so it's not too basic, etc. So anyway, so I worked the gig, and they were getting ready to pay. And as soon as I was helping them load out and everything, and Big Les and the whole band walks up to me, and they were like, hey, you got us together quick. Can you come with us to PA? So I was like, oh, okay, yeah. When's the next gig? He was like, I would say at this time it was about 2:30 in the morning, so because we were like loading out. And he was like, well, we would like you to be there by about 10 in the morning. So I was like, okay. So, you know, I went home, I literally slept 2 hours, and I met them in Pittsburgh, and we did this big gig there. And then, you know, like I said, from that point, I built a relationship. But after that, around that time, I had got a call from James Lloyd of Pieces of a Dream. And it was like, well, because he happened to be cousins with one of my best friends that I've been knowing this dude literally since I've been 7 years old. Never once been in my studio all these times, never once decided to tell me that he and the legendary James Lloyd are cousins and first cousins. So I'm like, okay. So he and his wife Teresa come over to the house, check out my studio, and, you know, he was like, hey, man, they told me you're a producer. So I let him hear some of the stuff that I did instrumentally. And from that, the first song that he and I did together was Stepper's Delight, and put that song out, Billboard #1. I could not believe it. I'm out of Youngstown. First major song out, we topped the charts. So I'm like, okay, so our next song, you know, it was called New Jazz Swing, did really well. So then, like Jeannie, I met Nico, and Nick came to the studio, and so we started working on his album, Colionne. And so I had a song that I wrote. It was kind of like a house feel song. It's called "Gotta Keep It Moving." She probably knows it. She knows Colionne, and that was the first song that I wrote for him. So I wrote that. I wrote about 3 songs for him, and you know, then I got to meet. Oh man, what's his name? The flutist that he always goes to Detroit to see. Real good guy. Well, anyway, so like I said, I was just like meeting all these industry guys, but I did it simply from this studio you see right here in Youngstown, Ohio. And you know, I mean, yeah, had I been producing like I've been producing nonstop, making all kind of music, you know, even doing my own projects, and out of nowhere, it was just put in my lap. And I feel like I was being prepared for this a long time. But the thing, just like everyone else said, is you cannot quit, because think if I had quit, like I've been making songs, nothing had got through. Then I got with Zap. They heard a lot of my music and they were like, well, hey, we really like this stuff. But, you know, at the time they were touring, they weren't putting stuff out. So it was kind of useless. And then, like I said, literally 2 weeks later, James Lloyd is sitting in my studio playing my keyboards.
Right.
And I mean, he's making these things smoke up in here. If you know anything about James' hands. Absolutely. So, you know, like I said, then like I've produced for Pieces of a Dream, probably about 13 songs. I produced half of James Lloyd's first project. And so, I mean, like I said, from that point, then I was like I felt like in a little standstill. So I ended up meeting this guy by the name of Saeed Renaud, and he was the guy. He was like came in fourth place on Puff Daddy's show, The Four. So I met him, and you know, went out to LA because I was going to NAMM back and forth, which is a big thing. If you are in the music world, you have to go to NAMM. You have to go. Like I go yearly. So hopefully this January, when the Rona is over, we can all get back together. But so I go out there and I'm hanging out with Saeed, and he tells me about this singer. He was like, look, man, you know, we love your music. He said, but this guy's looking for ballads, and we know you really big with ballads anyway. So gives me guy's phone number. I call him, you know, nice little Southern boy. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like, man, you got a really nice singing voice. So I sent him a couple tracks. He writes them, he sends it back. Well, the first song we did together was called Champion. And so needless to say, a year later, we're looking up on American Idol, and he is like in the top 2, and he comes in second place in American Idol. His name's Willie Spence. So like, and I produced another song for him recently called Reckless. So that one is getting ready to be out. And, you know, and like I said, it's just trying to keep working, keep putting music out. Like I put out 2 of my projects, but I would say like Jeannie says, the biggest thing is never stop producing, never stop moving forward. Like I'm always trying to learn something. Like during the pandemic, I taught myself the bass and the guitar, because I was like, well, you know, I played the drums in church, you know, I played keys, of course. And it was one of those things. A lot of times I was having problems getting with bass players. So I went to the Guitar Center, bought me a little $99 special, and I really fell in love with the bass. And then after that, I bought a guitar, and I was like, well, now that I can play all these instruments, you know, I'm just like getting with a lot of these guys, like Rick Ward of Ohio Players. He's been teaching me, you know, like different styles and different chordings. So, but my thing is not only never give up, but keep learning, because a lot of times people will get stagnant and they get comfortable. And I feel like all greatness is born in discomfort, you know, and that has been the thing for me. Is like, say again?
I said, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And I felt like that. I'm like, all great things are born in discomfort. And when you step out of your comfort zone, because be perfectly honest, I was never going to do jazz. It ain't that crazy. Like I've been doing R&B, you know, hip hop. I've been doing house, you know, and all those different music. But I was always doing a lot of instrumentals, and my sister was one of the first people to say, hey, you need to put together some instrumental CDs. And the first one I did was like more really neo soul, because I'm a neo soul guy. And so like I said, I let James hear a couple of songs, and like it was one song that I was pitching to Usher, and we ended up flipping it, and we got Gerald Albright on it, called it was on James Lloyd's first album. And you know, having Gerald working with Najee, you know, working with Nick Colionne, and you know, it's just been a blessing. And it's been one of those things that I would have never thought would have happened living here in Youngstown, Ohio, because there are no music outlets here. Like, I mean, be perfectly honest, we don't even really have a radio station. So, but the thing is, I've always said this as a young kid, you might have more talent than me, but you will not outwork me. Like, I am, when I say that, I am tenacious when it comes to my work ethic. Like, I know it drives my wife crazy. Sometimes she'll say, you know, I get in the studio 13, 14 hours. She'll be like, you didn't eat today. And, you know, I'll go out there and finally eat. And I'm diabetic, so I need to stop doing that before she find me back here with my head on the keyboard or something. But, I mean, that's the other thing. I would say work ethic, and and just keep trying stuff. Like, that's one thing that I've learned, even with the promotions. Some of these lessons you're going to have to pay for. Like, a lot of them are not going to be given to you. So sometimes you're going to try different companies, and some are going to do good, some are going to fail you. But you got to keep working at it. And that for me has been like the biggest thing that I've seen. Like, never give up, because even when you feel like, you know, and you have to become your own biggest cheerleader sometimes. And that is one of the biggest things I've learned. Because sometimes you just feel like, man, you know, I've done all this work. I got all this great work sitting here, and, you know, nothing is happening. But deep down inside, you know how you'll just know deep down inside something is supposed to happen. You have to hang on to that, because I'm telling you, I told a couple people before I got with James Lloyd that I would have a Billboard #1 in 2 years. I got it in 1.
There you go.
And the other thing I would say real quick, get you hold on before I knock this over. Get a dream board.
Yeah.
Everything that I wanted to do, I write down right here.
Right. That's what's up.
Oh, what?
That's
Like, okay, like when I started off, you see a lot of this stuff is scratched off. Like this was right here. It was for me to get my associates and bachelors. I got it in 6 months of each other. And like a lot of these things like have been scratched off, and I just keep working. And it seems like whenever I read it daily, but it seems like when I started doing that, things just start coming to fruition, and you just have to believe in it. I think that's 90% of most success, if you believing in you.
That's right, man. That's excellent. Absolutely excellent. Well, that was Boots from Youngstown, Ohio, as I am native Youngstowner. And I'm ending this phase of the conversation with Linda, because I actually started with Linda in the sense of having this idea about the EntreMusician. So she has been a moderator and really helped to shape what this conversation looks like. And she has had obstacles upon obstacles that she's turned into opportunity. And I'm grateful that she is helping me to build this conversation.
Well, it's really a pleasure to be here, and it's so much fun to be listening to everything that you guys have done with your lives and your music. I'm not a music creator. I don't write songs. I don't work in production, although I'm learning it. And I am certified in Pro Tools, and I do work with it because I coach a lot of singers, and I coach people in the studio, and I have to learn as much as I can in order to be able to in order to be effective doing that. But I was a classical singer. That was my gig. I'm still a classical singer. I just don't do it so much because I'm teaching all the time. But and writing words, not music, words. But maybe I will be writing music because this group is inspiring so much. But I can only add to what the others have said is that networking is one of the greatest challenges I think everyone faces as a young artist. And from the singer's perspective, it's even more difficult in a way, because for me, as a classical singer, this was like 150 years ago. I graduated from conservatory in Boston, which was a challenge in itself. I don't tell the story anywhere else, Cherries, but I'm going to tell it here for you. And is that when I graduated high school, I had been singing quite a bit in theater all through school from a very young age. My first stage performances were at 5 or 6 years old. So I just stayed on the stage my whole life. And I learned classical piano. And I was playing Beethoven sonatas when I was 10 or 11 years old. And so that was sort of my root in the world that I was in. At the same time, I was listening to the Rat Pack. So my parents were really into the Las Vegas scene. So, I mean, they didn't live there or anything, but they listened to that music, that style of music. So I grew up listening to the Rat Pack, which is Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra, and somebody else, I think. But
Great American Songbook.
Yeah, Great American Songbook. And what's great is, like, it's not the most complicated music that you could study, but they have such a way with words and communicating and singing. It's the artistry, no matter what genre you're working in, it's that artistry is the same. Can you phrase music? Can you communicate? Can you show the artistry of whatever it is you're working with, whatever kind of music you're working with? So I had that exposure early on. When I graduated high school, then I wanted to go to music school, but my father did not want me to do it. So he's a criminal attorney, and he thought that was a waste of time and money. So he wouldn't allow me to go. And in those days, you couldn't really just say what you wanted. You weren't really that free. So I went to college for business, and I did very little business, and I did a lot of music. And I auditioned and sang. I created and built a theater department at the college that didn't have one before. So I basically spent all my time on music and history and art at a business college, and it was really quite shocking. And then I went to conservatory. So I went to New England Conservatory, and when I graduated, after adjusting, because I was a little bit older, other students were 18 when I was 21, and that felt old at that time. So there's a lot of things to catch up with, and I had to work really hard to get my music skills to be at the same level as a conservatory student. And once I got through with that, I thought, well, I don't want to sit in a regular job and support my singing somehow and sing on the weekends or do whatever you're supposed to do as a young singer. In those days, we didn't learn production in school or anything like that. We learned writing, composition, classical composition. So there was no really other job for someone who went to conservatory and studied voice. So I went to Europe. I went to the Kodály Institute in Kecskemét, Hungary. And I went there for a year, and I remember arriving at the train station in Kecskemét, Hungary, my first time in Europe, and getting off the train in this post-communist era train station that looked like it was circa 1947. And there was nobody on the platform. When my stop came, it was a little town, and some nice people on the train helped me off with my giant suitcases for the year. And I got off on that platform, and I said, oh, what have I done? Where am I? And fortunately, when I came out of the train station, the school was there to greet me and take me to the place to study. And there I got excellent music training. And it was really a wonderful experience. And talk about being out of your comfort zone. There were a lot of challenges there as well, because the music training in Hungary is superb, way beyond the American young people and way beyond, I would say, our undergraduate level in the States. So it was challenging, but I decided to stay. So I stayed in Europe because I knew I could get more opportunities as a classical singer than I could if I came back to the States. So you can actually make a living there. So you don't have to be rich and famous, but you can actually work. So you do a lot of concerts, you do a lot of work with church orchestras, and every street corner there's a theater and there's something to do. And so you can actually make a living and do what you want to do with your craft and keep working on it, keep learning. And there are incredible artists there that I studied with, that I worked with, and I got to tour with the Hungarian Symphony Orchestra through Central Europe, which was an incredible experience. I sang in some small opera houses. I did a lot of Mozart and Schubert recitals with orchestra, which I never would have had this many concerts and programs like that if I had stayed in the US. It was just not available to me. I'm a light, high soprano. There's about, a lot of light, high sopranos in the world. So a lot of competition for me in the US, but there was a lot of demand in Europe. So that's the way I battled it. And like the others have described, you have to just go for it. So you have to show up and you have to walk into the room with a lot of strangers and you have to sing and you have to do it over and over and again. And you do it one time and it's lousy and you get up and you do it the next time and it's better. And you just have to keep going. And if you quit, you'll never know what you can become. So even if you don't become a famous opera star, so I did not become an A-level opera star singing at the Metropolitan Opera, but I had wonderful experiences, wonderful training. I toured, I sang all the time. So you don't always have to be the celebrities that you hear about at Madison Square Garden and at the Hollywood Bowl. You can actually have a great career by building your own community, your own fan base, and your own music without worrying about whether or not you're at that A level. The other aspect of it is that you have to have extreme clarity. So everyone here has spoken about how you have to persevere and you have to believe in yourself and you have to go contact that person and just say, hey, show up with your guitar and show them what you've got and make friends. Yeah, that's all true. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have some clarity in your mind. So human beings have a huge, enormous capacity to create. So if you look around at our society, you have buildings, you have architecture, you have everything that we live with in our modern society because somebody could envision it. Somebody saw a skyscraper in their mind and they could build it because of that. They could solve the challenges because they had the vision. And this is so crucial because in today's world, especially, we can so easily get distracted. We can so easily have struggles and things that stop us in our tracks or that distract you and say, oh, maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that. But if you have a vision and you follow it, you can't know where it will lead you, but you can know that it will lead you in a direction that will give you a chance to feel happier, more fulfilled, more chance to grow as a human being and as a musician and as an artist. And you can only get through those fears and get to the place of believing in yourself and persevering if you have extreme clarity of that vision. So that's what I think I can contribute.
Well, that's absolutely on point. In fact, a lot of the culmination of what all of you've said with respect to the perseverance, with respect to clarity, with respect to the vision board or dream board, and even this collaborative is right out of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. So, all of these things are kind of put into play. The next question I want to ask, and anybody can jump in and then we can begin a dialogue about it, but is there any one book or biography or autobiography that most inspired you when you were feeling like at your lowest and you just had to trudge on? Like Boots was mentioning, with those times he had boom, 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 and then there was like a stalemate. Was there something that you utilized to really encourage you to say, it inspired you to get on?
Let me just say one quick thing, Jerry.
Sure.
Let the others talk after. But these ideas are not new in modern society, even though we have a lot of self-help books and motivation books and a lot of artists sharing how they made it. I'm reading right now a book by Leslie Odom Jr., who is the star of Hamilton on Broadway. So we have all these current people sharing their stories and their strategies and concepts with us. These were the Greek philosophers spoke about this. Socrates spoke about this. This goes back to ancient times where human beings realized that, okay, if I think about it and if I focus on it, I can create this thing. And especially artists and musicians are just drawn to it naturally, but we still have to develop it if we want to have a career. So we can be drawn to it naturally, but maybe that's not enough for us to be able to pay our bills. We have to kind of push a little bit further to be able to live on it. Very important because it's a human survival strategy. So as a species, we have to keep growing and pushing to another level in order to feel like we're thriving in life. Otherwise, we don't feel like we're thriving. We're just living.
Absolutely. That's right. Gil, you were going to say something.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Linda, just to piggyback off that, I wrote down relax, and I don't mean that flippantly or facetiously. Maybe most of us, I'm very type A, I'm very, to-do list. I just purged literally hundreds of papers of to-do lists, which felt so free and liberating. But the teachings that I'm listening to recently, more spiritual based, Wayne Dyer and Abraham Hicks, I don't even know what I think about channeling, but it's a woman who channels sort of a knowledgeable entity, kind of thing. But the knowledge is just amazing. And talking about relaxing and letting go and trusting. And as I listened to that advice, I look back and I was like, you know what, it is that. It's every time I did something that I didn't actually have on my to-do list, but it just came out of my heart and I moved on that, something amazing happened that I couldn't even thought of. And a lot of that teaching says it's that resistance, that we think we know what it's going to be, or we have to, we think we're designing it, but I think there's a lot more at work. There's whatever faith you believe in, God, the universe. There's magic, I think, happening all around us that you just have to relax into and let it come through you. And yeah, that's been my experience lately. It's just been, I'm very humbled by it. So.
That's a great place to be, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I happen to be visiting my aunt who's building, she lives in an apartment building in Chicago, one of those tall buildings, and it just happens to overlook my old high school. And I stood there, the lights were out, everybody else was asleep and I was still up, and I'm looking over at my high school and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could just go back and tell myself to stop being so scared. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And I can tell you, there's been some really crappy crap that's happened to me in my life, but overall, it did work out. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I wish I could just go back and sit down with that girl. I know exactly what I would say. I'd be like, relax. It's okay. You're really okay. It's going to be okay. I just wish I could have that conversation with my younger self.
Wow. That's excellent.
I have one thing that go ahead, Vince.
Oh, I was just saying, I was saying you came to that realization. A lot of people never come to the realization. And so whether you were young or old, you're there. And that's the most beautiful place to
start. One thing I would probably say, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is when you want something to happen, say what you want to happen. Like literally just say it. Like even if you don't have a way to get there, say what you want to happen. Because to me, what I've always seen is whenever you do that, then all of a sudden you'll see certain doors, or you'll be out in the store, you'll strike up a conversation with somebody and they'll be in that exact field or a part of something that can get you a step closer to where you're getting. So like that for me is like the biggest thing is like, I always say, okay, this is like normally on Sundays, that's my strategy day. And I write and say what I want to get done for the week. Maybe that's probably the military in me because I'm a 14-year military man. So I am like on Sundays, I normally write down, I'll say, okay, for this week, I want to do this, 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 and this. And, when I get up in the morning, before I go anywhere, I read that list. I don't care if it's in my phone, I'll read it but I make sure that I'm trying to at least knock out 1 to 2 things each day. But it's, you have to have a plan. And even if you don't have a plan, at least speak about what you want to do. And then the plan will formulate. So.
Yes, it's about that clarity of vision. So when you have a clear thing, what is it that I really want? What is the goal really? And being very, very specific about it. Like, for example, I want George Benson to sing one of my songs. Once you have that picture in your mind, things start showing up, and then you get the opportunity. I'm driving. Okay, no, it wasn't magic that Jeanne got George Benson to sing one of her songs. She worked hard, but she had the clear vision. I'm going to drive down there and see him and walk backstage. I can do that. And once you have that
And
clarity,
then magic happens.
the solutions, the obstacles and the solutions run away. And that's like Jeannie. I wish that I knew that when I was younger, because the fear that, oh, you have to be perfect before you can do anything. And I have students at Berklee who go through the same things. And I refer to one of them in my book when on a chapter I talk about perspective and these issues, is that you feel like you're not ready and it's not good enough and you can't put something out there because it's not ready. But in fact, we're communicating, we're doing music, we're communicating with each other, we're telling each other stories, we're sharing emotional experiences, and that is always ready. And the craft will come and get better and better from doing it. You can't begin with having fantastic craft and a mastery of your skills. Craft takes time and experience. But the value of communicating and sharing your emotional experience, your message of your song, the message of your music, that is always there, even if your craft is not ready yet.
Jerry, can I add one thing? It's such an important topic, and anybody might be watching that's not sure. I just want to add, when I talk about the magic, it's sort of under the assumption that you are kind of going with your heart. You're doing what your heart's telling you want to do, whatever that is. Because if you're not feeling that, then it's going to be really hard. You got to really feel. And it's where I think the magic happens is when, personally for me, I could put the 313 things on my, 100 pages of to-do list away and then because it's already there, it's planned. I already know all those things I want to do. What's coming at this moment, act on that. What's coming at this moment, act on that. And that's sort of freeing, but put the work in, because you got to, once that could get you to the door. But if it's kind of like having an agent, when I was in acting, the agent doesn't get me the job. She got me to the door, but if I'm not prepared, then they'll close the door.
That's right.
Yeah, preparation. You do have to be able to deliver once you've gotten there.
Definitely.
You can't just have a half approach to things. You really do have to be prepared. I mean, I typically am over prepared, but that's me. But at least you've got to be able to come in and walk in and know that you've got this. And even if in the back of your mind, because it's always good to have a little doubt, to have the shakes, but use that energy of knowing that you're a little, I'm getting a little nervous here. Use that energy, turn that around to being, I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to use this energy. This energy is going to propel me forward. It's okay that I'm nervous. It's good that I'm nervous. I should be nervous. But then, you know what I mean? The preparation has been there. You've got muscle memory if you're a musician and it's about playing. You've got, there's this wonderful singer. I won't call her out right now, but she's working on some lyrics. Actually, she's working on some new music, and she was like, I don't want to listen to anything. I don't want to be influenced by anything. I want to make sure everything. I'm like, I'm still remembering my days at Berklee, where I first learned the concept of line cliches. And thank God, because it lets you off the hook. Because here's the thing. We have a repertoire of line cliches. These are things that have been, cliches, musical cliches that have been used since the beginning of frickin' time. And they're still locked in there. So here you are trying to find the new note. You're trying to write that thing. And ultimately, look, come on. You've got this whole library up in here. It will support you. You will find that new way of expressing whatever it is, but let yourself off the hook. There's nothing new. But it is still you and your twist on it, and you will still bring something brilliant to the table. But just let it happen, and don't be afraid about it happening. It will happen.
And Jeanne, I want to piggyback real quick on what you were saying as far as like being nervous. Like especially when you're going to a new thing. But when you said about being over prepared or preparing yourself for something, there's certain things that you need to know. Like, I think there's a lot of people who don't know how to prepare for it. Like one thing, like I just learned recently, because like I said, during all this time, I started back taking piano lessons again. And I had this brilliant teacher, and he told me something that I never thought to do. He says, okay, now you're going to get back out there and you're going to start playing gigs again, right? He said, you know, if you have a bunch of people in your house, have them sit in the room and play to them like they're your audience. Like, you have to get used to, you have to practice playing in front of people, because that's a thing all in itself. And I can say, for me, being a musician and a singer, I'm like, you know, sometimes playing those small rooms are the most nerve-wracking things. Like, you know, when it's a bunch of people in there, you know, it's a bunch of people. But when you got 25 people and you can see all their faces and you can see their expressions, you know, that can throw you if you're not used to playing to people or you haven't exercised that muscle in a while. So that was something he was like, you know, when you're going to play a song, if you haven't played, you know, if you got your kids around, have them sit down there and play them and ask them, what you think about this? You know, because it's a good thing to practice that, having the audience, because you can't simulate an audience.
But you know, and Linda will back me up on this, when you're playing in a larger surface, you can't see the audience. That actually is a little daunting too. You can see maybe parts of the first row, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that throws you too, because you're not getting that feedback and you're like, ooh, I've got to bring everything from me. It all has to come out of here. And that's another kind of performance. You literally are having to generate all your own energy. And I would find myself constantly turning back to the band, trying to get something, you know, something going on from somewhere. There's nothing out there but lights.
Yeah.
You know?
Funny, Jeanne.
Yeah, just trying to find. Yeah.
It's the opposite for me. So I get more energy. I can pull more out of me when I'm on a big stage where I can't see anybody. Because I think that I get distracted. I think that I get distracted if I don't anymore, but years ago, I think now I'm much better, of course, because I sing in churches all the time and I'm a cantor and things like that. So I'm used to it now. But years ago when I was starting out, sure, I was much better when it was all black, because then I could feel free to bring out my own energy. It was intimidating to bring out my own energy when there were people there, like, looking at me, you know, when I was younger. So it's interesting, but different kind of music, you know. I was a theater, right? I'm doing a song that's written by dead people, that's written as a character, you know, and it's much different than when you're with a band doing your own music or songs that people are used to singing. You need that energy back. I know Fish and Mike Gordon Band, they only play for decades. They've only played in venues where people are standing. They never would play in a venue where people sit, because they couldn't play. They would just be miserable. So it's a thing, and I think it varies according to genre or whatever. But I wanted to add something to what Boots said about the practice for dealing with performance. So many people today do music in their bedroom because we have everything we need to create and to make art and to send it out into the world. We don't have to leave our living rooms. Charlie Puth is a singer-songwriter who graduated from Berklee, MP&E, engineering, production engineering. He used to do everything in his bedroom in his apartment in Boston when he lived in Boston. And then he became a, you know, celebrity, famous Hollywood, LA artist, and he now lives in a mansion, and he still does it in his bedroom in his mansion. Nobody touches anything of his music until it goes from his bedroom in his mansion to iTunes, and that did not exist when I was growing up, you know. So we had to be out there in front of people all the time, or else we weren't doing anything. But today you don't. And the only way you get better at it is by doing it over and over and over again. No matter how much talent you have, no matter how much desire you have to be a performing artist, you have to do it over and over again to get really good at communicating with the energy and putting over what you want to do. And that nervousness that Jeanne was talking about, that's the getting out of your comfort zone that some other people were talking about, but that's also a normal human reaction, especially for vocalists, because vocalizing is part of our survival instincts, and it was a big survival for us as a species, and it has so much of an impact on how we feel about our role in the world. So with our friends, with a family, with the world, they hear us We have our tribe. We have acceptance. We have our place in the world by our voices. And so when you get up there to perform, there's really a lot at stake. And that will be happening neurologically for you, whether you like it or not. It's just human. And you have to get practiced at responding to that, right? It's not that it's going to go away. It's how we respond to it. So the energy, the nervousness, the anxiety is going to come, but it's how you respond to it that makes the difference between an artist and professional and somebody who needs more experience.
Yeah, that's excellent. Gil, you were unmuted. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in or you were just unmuted.
Oh, just unmuted. Yeah.
Okay.
Laughing, enjoying everything I'm hearing.
Yeah, really, this is wisdom here that's being shared, and we could do this for 5 hours straight. We try to just do it every Sunday. We try to respect everybody's time, but I thought it was very important for people who listen to EntreMusician to hear other voices than mine with respect to, again, using what's in your hand. From that bedroom in Boston to the mansion bedroom, just, hey, whatever it takes, that's the tool. And so what I want to do is just to wrap up here is to just go around, and where I'm sitting is Linda, Gil, Jeannie, Vance, Boots. Just go around, any final words, and I will make sure that I have your contact information in the show notes so that anyone who's listening or watching this can reach out to you directly. But if there was anything else that you wanted to add, especially on Jeanne, I think she brought it up with going back to her high school self and giving the younger her or the younger version of her advice. What is it? What would you say? Hey, listener, hey, viewer, this is the single most important piece of advice I can give you. What would that be? And let's start with Linda. You're muted. I'm sorry.
I have to say it's be prepared, even though everything that we're talking about are things that we have to deal with and we have to work through. If you're not prepared, you can't even get through that. So learn your craft, practice, pay attention to detail, develop a freedom in your ability to work with your instrument, your music, your voice, where you're not using your brain too much to think about things, right? Many people, producers, this happens, young producers a lot, where they're thinking so much they're not making music. It happens to singers all the time. They're thinking so much they're reaching for notes and trying to hit notes. It doesn't work that way. And I know other instruments, if you're, your fingers on the keyboard and the guitar, it's not going to work unless you really, really craft your skills.
Yeah, that's great. So Gil, what is the most important piece of advice you would share?
It was a daunting question. It's like, one? But it came to me anyway. I'd say write in a journal every day. I love that Boots holds up his list that he writes on. Yeah. And I think there's something about that connection coming through you through the end of a pen. And, because I think the most important thing is figuring out why you're doing what you're doing, because everybody can tell you how to do it. We're no shortage of information in the world, but why you're doing it is going to be the reason you persist. And you'll find that out when you write to yourself. Yeah,
that's beautiful, because it has to be your why, and it has to be important enough to be your why, because there's 1,000 drummers in the world, and there's 999,000 better than I am, but nobody can lock into my why. It's just the way it is, so that's really cool. Jeanne, so I know you have like the most important piece of advice sitting right there by your side. What is it? And you have to unmute.
Be yourself. Be 100% yourself. I once had a teacher at Berklee ask me, well, did God give you that note? Does the note have to be there? Does it have to be that? I was like, yeah, that's the way I heard it. That's the way and there are no shortage of people who will criticize you and give you the benefit of their criticism. Ultimately, you have to listen in here, and more so in here, for your music and not try to bend and contort into this style and that style and listen to that artist and emulate that thing. No, that thing that you were born with, that's coming out of you, whatever that conglomeration of all that you've listened to, all that you've heard, all that you've been, all that you are, it's coming out of you. Respect that version of the divine that's coming through you, and not, there's so many opinions. Your head will be spinning if you try to listen to everybody's criticism. I mean, don't be haughty about it. You don't have to be obnoxious about it. But by the same, I mean, if there are still occasionally some relevant pieces of information that you may need to know. But overall, be true to yourself and listen in here.
Pearls. Absolutely. Vance. Now, Vance, we all know we got to stand back because Vance is going to give it to us. Like,
no, not at all. I'm just going to absolutely agree with Jeanne there, because I have three granddaughters, and my eldest granddaughter went to Berklee, and she was a kid. She wrote great songs. I say this as a professional, not as a biased grandfather. And she wrote great songs, and then she got into Berklee, and she went through the whole thing, and she graduated and came out. But I had to remind her, hey, baby, don't forget the gift. You learn all the technical stuff, you've learned all this stuff, great, but don't let it get in the way of the gift that you have. And so she's one of those who's very nervous, about performing. She's brilliant. I have to say that she's got a credible voice. In the studio, she's ridiculous. I mean, she knows every single thing. She's amazing. But the gift that she has is what I really kind of wanted her to grow and concentrate on. Like I was saying to a couple of times when we talked, be true to yourself, absolutely, but write songs that touch you, write songs that fill your heart with joy, and then put them out there. Don't write for specific things and trying to please that audience. Write what turns you on, because if it turns you on, it'll turn somebody else on. And then you put it out there, and then it takes on a life of its own. Yeah. But it's very important to be true to yourself. I was telling these kids the other day, this band, they found me on LinkedIn, just like I found Jerry B. And they called me up, hey, man, and they sent me some music. And I said, yeah, I'll get back to you guys, And they sent me some music, and I listened to it, and I had to call them right away. I said, hey, I really don't like your music, because of this. And I just got into this conversation with them. I said, I didn't want you hanging on thinking some manager was going to get back to you. I wanted to get back to you right now. You're obviously very gifted, very accomplished. I said, but you're not doing it right. And we got into this whole thing, and it was amazing. Turns out they're Romany Gypsy boys, born in America, but Romany Gypsy. And we started listening back to their root music from 100 years ago of Romany Gypsies, and the rhythm and the bass lines and everything is out of this world. I'm saying, hey, use that foundation and bring your American experience into it and create something totally unique and everything. It was wild. So just don't lose who you are. That's the most important thing. And I'm nuts, so, I got a problem.
That's in a fantastic way. And I think before we go to Boots, one of probably the most important questions we forgot to ask is, how did he get the nickname Boots?
Boots, Lord have mercy. Well, as a young child, most kids like to play in tennis shoes. I did not. I love boots. Even to this day, majority, if you see me, I'm going to be wearing Timberlands or some type of boots. And that's like, And I was an AAU athlete. I played basketball. I was a big time hooper. But I just love boots. It's just, what I did. So, yeah, that's yeah.
Thank you, man.
Well, but okay, now my little tidbit is something similar to what Jeanne said. And I have like a part A and part B. I say you be the artist. At no time do I take into account of what the listener is hearing. Most times. What I do is I basically just create. And when I feel it's good, I put it out. You know what I mean? Because like there's two tidbits that I've always heard. Jay-Z said this one thing that I thought was brilliant. He says, never chase shiny things. Now, what does that mean? That means don't go after what is, in vogue now.
Sure.
It's just like a black suit. It will never go out of style. You know what I mean? Like you come in there with a well-tailored suit, that will never be not a good thing.
Right.
If you come in and it's just like a traditional, like a real good spaghetti. If you had a good spaghetti, it's never going to be a bad thing.
Right.
So he says, stay honed in who you are. And then the other thing I would say too is we as artists have to take one thing into account a lot of times, and I think we forget this. Writer block only comes to you when you're uninspired. So what I have been adding to my repertoire, I was looking at this, there was a podcast. Take out some time every week to listen to music that you love.
Yeah.
Because every time you hear it, you may have not heard certain songs in a long time, and you're going to hear it with fresh ears.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear something that you didn't hear before because of a new understanding. Right. So for me, I'm like, I use that to recharge my creativity. So I would say just take out some time and listen to some music that you love and just absorb it. That's mine.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Pickard, Vance Anderson, Jeanne Ricks, Linda Balliro, Gil Polk. Not only are they fantastic EntreMusicians in their own right, I have the invaluable gratitude to be able to call them friends. And you heard it from them, and you take it and you learn it, you apply it, and you get in touch with them, and you'll find that you're going to make strides in your life and in your career.
Well, I can't add or take away anything to what has been already said, so I'm just going to do a quick close here. If you have not jumped on as a subscriber to the EntreMusician, please do so, the EntreMusician.com. Go to the Backstage Pass, fill out the quick form, and join us. You can contact each of these wonderful EntreMusicians directly. Their information, their contact is in the show notes and in the description box below. You can also jump on to the EntreMusician.com, go to the community page, check out their website, check out many others who are a part of this community as well. As I said before, I'm going to keep this ending short. Thank you for hanging around to the end. My name is Jerry B. Peace and blessings to you. I am the EntreMusician. But you know what? So are you. We will see you next time.